that you climbed out, so that's good.
Yes, I'm completely out now, so you can see me and you can hear me. You're very lucky people.
Yeah.
Perfect. What we've been hoping
Okay,
for.
guys, we're recording, so I'm going to start the meeting. This is the meeting of the Master Plan Implementation Committee, January 4th, 2024. Happy New Year, everybody. Starting the meeting at 7:05. And calling the meeting to order. I think I need to take a roll call, right? Because we're remote, all remote tonight. Okay.
Yes.
Demiria here.
Stivers here.
Will Warren here.
Watson here.
And I believe I covered up Kat, who said she was here as well.
Here.
Okay. No one's in the audience, so we don't have any public comment. So we'll go to our first topic. Well, first, did everybody have a nice break? Hopefully. Nice time off.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's January snuck up on us for sure. The first topic on the agenda is our report to the planning board. This is our semi-annual report, as we decided to call it. So just my update here is I spoke to the chair, and we have 2 meetings scheduled for the planning board in January. One is Monday the 8th, and the other is the 29th. And January really snuck up on us. And so I did ask her whether or not we could deliver the report on the 29th. The planning board's been really busy with a lot of matters recently, as you know, and also MBTA communities. And we had so many topics at our last meeting that some of them got tabled to our next meeting. So I thought it was the right thing to do. And also given the fact that we're just coming back from the break, and I know a lot of us are still working on the reports. And so our report to the planning board then would be delivered on the 29th. That's our next meeting. Typically, we haven't been, in person. It's just been delivered and I fielded any questions. But this year, I'm happy to have anybody who would like to attend. And if we have a quorum, I would post the agenda. So just didn't know if, we're trying to step it up a little bit more, get planning board a little more involved, answer any questions that they have. And I certainly would, like the support if anybody would like to join on the 29th. So I wanted to put that out.
I'll be there.
Good. Anybody else?
I'm
do have a
happy with you
question.
doing the report.
Sorry.
You're happy to do the report?
Happy with you doing the report.
Oh, with me doing the report. Okay.
I have a question. So I know, and this, I don't want to sound selfish. I know the planning board meetings can go long, just like the select board meetings. And I'm just curious if on the agenda, given timing, is this usually at the top, or is there a standard protocol for when you have master plan meeting report and updates where it is on the agenda, just so we could kind of plan? Because if it's a 4-hour night, it might be tricky to stay there all night, but if I could budget kind of a...
No, I think it's a really good question. If there's a hearing and the hearing is already scheduled, if there's a matter, it's usually scheduled for 7 p.m. However, the planning board is starting at 6:30. So sometimes we can put in some of the lighter topics in advance. I think it's courteous, to be honest, when we have other visiting boards that we allow our boards to meet and then move on with other business. But if someone is scheduled, we have to stick to that time.
Sure.
So I will put in a word with the chair and see if there's a way that we could put that in, have it earlier on the agenda and see if it works out. Yeah, because we have started meeting at 6:30, so that gives us a little time for some discussion on topics at the beginning.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So that's good. And just, you guys don't need to let me know, it's not till the 29th, but if others wish to join, you can just let me know. And if there's a quorum, I would post the agenda. And the report, we want to talk about the report, but the report is, we typically deliver it the week before. We try to get things before. Now, I am a little uncertain if we're just giving an electronic copy or a also a printable copy. I'm all electronic, to be honest, but I think that we mentioned last one of our meetings that the print area wasn't exactly defined, and what got put out into, yeah, Kat, I think you, when it picked up on it, what got put out as a public document really was hard to read and went onto multiple pages, and it didn't really look like an Excel spreadsheet. So I think, just to, keep that in mind. Judith, you also intimated that's something that you could help with, but, we do need to make this publicly available for the public because it's going to be talked about at the meeting.
Judith, you're on mute. Judith, we can't hear you.
Still muted,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, there you are. Good.
So I think there's two different things. There's making there's putting a version with the right format into a PDF that can be then posted on that website. Okay. And then there's making a document that you can actually print and read as a document. And for me, it's slightly different, because if someone's going to then go to the trouble of looking at a PDF online, you can change the zoom on a PDF and look at it online. So it doesn't, but if it needs to be a printable document so that it's printable and readable in a meeting, I'm going to have to change the format somewhat of that Excel sheet, because it's not designed to be printed to be read like a page of a book. And I can do it, it's doable. It just means it will be a bigger document, and it's going to take some time to do that.
I'm wondering if there's value to doing that, Judith.
I wonder
curious
also,
about the
yeah.
committee's thoughts.
Yeah, I think that to me, there obviously some essential pieces that we can talk about here, but going full detail or whatever, it's available if people want it, but I don't necessarily see going through there. I don't know, Debbie, what you're thinking about in terms of timing, but I got to believe that people's attention span is maybe 10 minutes or something like that or less. And so I think it's important to update folks, but I think you risk losing people if you go on too long with this stuff. So I think, to me, there's sort of a PowerPoint set of bullets or whatever. Here's what's happening, and advertise that we have much more detail available. If folks are interested, we can, post it in Excel form or whatever the right form is for that.
Yeah, I know, I agree with you. I'm not sure how much detail is needed. Honestly, everything should be there for the planning board to look at. I think it was really more just for the public, and how do we provide something. I think generally we've talked about trying to get more engagement from the public on what we're doing, and maybe advertising that we are delivering reports to the planning board and that public is welcome to look at them. And when we went back and took a look at the printed copy that was in the packet the last time that we presented a report, it was the print area wasn't set properly or something like that. So yeah, there are two different things. Yeah.
But so I guess the question for me then is, because I'm hearing Sam say a PowerPoint document, because last time we did a Word document which described what the MPIC had done for the last 6 months. And then
Word
we
is
had
fine.
Excel
Word could be
document.
fine, Judith. Yeah.
Right, but then we had the Excel document which gave the snapshot of it gave the highlights from each individual board and commission's progress report, which is 22 different, however many it is, little sound bites.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we want to do? Because
Recording in progress.
hang on, let me just go. Let me
You've
go.
cloned yourself, Judith.
No, I can't. Hang on a minute. I'm trying to do this on two tools. Hang on.
There you go.
There you go. I guess, Judith, it seems to me that providing, a spreadsheet version in a printable way as part of the packet for the planning board. To give people detail who want the detail is fine, but either a Word outline or PowerPoint outline for here's what we've been doing, here's where we are in the process, here's some interesting things that have come up during the process, et cetera, and here are our next steps, kind of summary, to let folks know what's going on. And then if they want, they can check the packet for the planning board and get the detailed spreadsheet. Maybe, I don't know, that's sort of my high level view.
And I guess a question to clarify what I said, we didn't need a printable version. I think to what Sam said, I do see a version of the report details being in the minutes, Judith. So does that mean we would need to then proceed to set the parameters to print in a PDF way, or can they still be irregularly sized but not print friendly, easily done in a PDF format? It because I do think the details need to be in the minutes of the summary report and then the details, because that's one way to get that information out.
But you can print
It
any
should, I
Excel
mean,
spreadsheet.
it can be readable and printable. It just means that there's going to be in Excel and saved to PDF. It just means there's going to be a lot more pages than the 3 pages, 2 pages, 3 pages that we gave him last time.
That could be fine, I think.
Okay, so let me ask another question then. So it sounds like Word document, it's much easier to write, in my view, it's much easier, much more usable to write a summary of what we've been doing and more key highlights and next steps in a Word document than a PowerPoint slide. PowerPoint, you'll
Agreed.
get the same problem in PowerPoint. You end
I
up with too
think
many
Sam was
slides.
just using the word PowerPoint bullet points as a way of just shortening, right? Just Sam, I think that's
Summary.
what you meant when you were saying we just use
Yeah.
bullet point type shortened, but you didn't necessarily mean use PowerPoint.
Not necessarily. I mean, again,
Okay.
a summary document, here's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
That's easy for people to understand, absorb, and fairly brief, and then have the
Okay.
detail available as
So-
part of the packet.
So on the Excel document then, the Excel document is set up. I'll just show you this because it's probably easier. Can you
What
let
do I
me
need to
share
do?
the
I need to give you
please?
some rights or something to show the
In your
document?
screen.
I think if you right click and promote to panelist, right, on her name, in the upper right hand corner, there's a little ellipsis, the 3 little dots.
Make you a co-host?
Yep.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay.
Thanks, Ken.
Let me just see if I can share this.
As a co-host, your
page.
pay is doubled, Judith, so that's good news.
Oh, good. I'm
That
so
sounds good.
glad about that. Okay, so this is 1 page of a 3-page, 2-page, or 3-page document. So it's set up to show the Q1 review and the Q2 review. Do you want to show both, or do you just want to show not Q2, the second review? Do you want to show both, or just the second review?
Why
So
not just
that,
a second?
what was that, Sam?
Why not just a second? That's where we are now.
Yeah, so this is report 1, and then is the next one biannual progress report 2? Is that what that means in the bottom? The
Yeah.
tabs?
No. So okay, so this is because I've got other trackers that I want to share later on. On the spreadsheet, we have it by board, commission, department.
Mhm.
Then this was what we showed last time.
Mhm.
This is the first review. And then there's a space for the second review. Do you want to show both of them side by side, or just the
seriously?
second review?
Personally, I like seeing a full document, but what if we not make this printable and we include a hyperlink to the Excel in the overall summary? So someone who's looking at the minutes would see the overall summary, be able to click and open an Excel, and that Excel would reside on the Master Plan Implementation Committee website. And we don't have to worry about formatting this at all. But the highlights is what gets in the minutes, and then the link to the report goes in the overview. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
But what does the planning board want to see?
I think the planning board wants to see this report, but I think
So
there are
I'm
two,
gonna
like
have to
you mentioned-
reformat it then, because I can't, if it's being, if it's a document used in the meeting, I can't send a hyperlink. We can't just use a hyperlink. We have to have the document done as a PDF.
So
with
you
me?
can't print this as a PDF. And
I can print it as a, I can print this as a PDF. It just has to be reformatted.
I guess I don't
And that's why I'm
understand.
saying, do we want to reformat it with just with the latest report or with both reports side by side? Or in some way, I'm going to have to work out the best way to do it to make it readable.
I think, so I know that we went from quarters to delivering semi-annual reports. But I think maybe I'm just gonna guess that the board may want to see the latest up-to-date information. There's some, at the very beginning, the first report we have here, that some of the committees were just being started or they're just rolling out. I don't know how useful that is. I think the current snapshot of what's going on is maybe the most useful.
What if we take a snippet of the Excel? You know how you have Microsoft Word, Microsoft Windows has a snippet tool, and it
Yeah.
allows you to do a print screen.
Yeah.
I just did one. We could snippet the Excel and have that in the overview report as like an appendix. And then you would have the full report in picture form, right? And then you could link to the Excel. So you would essentially be accomplishing what you need to do is show the document that you discussed in the meeting, and the snippets would of these Excel pages would satisfy that, and an Excel with a link that would get you to the live document. And that might be easier because I like this format, and I would hate to have to spend a ton of time for reformatting it to just satisfy a request, you know, a public records valid requirement, but this may be a good workaround. I could
Okay.
send an email,
Um,
for example, to you and let
I
you see
don't,
it.
I don't snip it, but I'll have a look at snippet.
It's
Is that like a
built in- well,
screen
It's
do you have
very easy.
do you have a Mac?
No.
Okay, then it should be built in. If you click in snippet into your snipping tool, I guess, into your Windows search bar, it should pop up for you. And it's
Okay, I
very
can have a
simple.
look.
Okay, I'll send you an example.
Okay, great.
Because I'd like to try to get away from a lot of extra work that isn't
Reformatting,
necessarily
yeah.
beneficial, but we want to get, to your point, everybody the information in front of them that they need to see.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you. Well, the next topic is talking about updates, and I think that's something we want to get into. But Judith, did you mention you want to talk about other things having to do with the report, or some ideas for future formatting or
Yeah,
something?
but
Do you want to do that
maybe
now?
we just can we close out on the planning board report
Yeah.
though?
Yes.
Can I ask another
First.
question, Debbie, about the planning board report?
Yes.
It seems to me that there's an opportunity here. If I'm on the planning board, hypothetically, I'm interested in some of the detail here. On the other hand, I'm unlikely to be able to absorb stuff very quickly off of the spreadsheet view of the world. So is there a cheat sheet kind of first page on this thing that says, you know, here are, in broad terms, here are the 3 things that we've been doing, and here are the 4 things that we've discovered, here are the key next steps for us, et cetera, sort of the 1-page cheat sheet. It says, here's what's going on with the process, not only for the planning board, but anybody who's watching as well, to get the quick update of here's where things are, and then dive into more of the details as we're talking about here.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, Sam. I'm kind of a person that reads things cover to cover, so I had not done that last time. And I think also we had a very busy night, and I'm not sure all the board members had the opportunity to really look at it cover to cover. So that would have been really helpful. So
I'm thinking
we
particularly for
are
the
putting a
public.
cover letter, a cover sheet on this, though, I believe.
Okay. Well, again,
Yeah.
particularly for the public who maybe may not be so close to it, say what's going on here. That would be a useful thing to at least let people get a sort of high level view. Here's what's happening. If they want more detail, then there's opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. I like that.
Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page here, this is, so I'm going to share again. If I can find it. Okay, this is what went to the planning board last time. So one and only one. So we talked about what we did in the introduction. We talked about our Q1 report. Let me try and do this. And we talked about the focus for Q2. And then the attachment was just a breakdown of, so we're looking for something like this, yeah?
Yeah, I think
Yep.
so, but with maybe more content of what's actually going on the boards and committees. Sam, was that what you were thinking of? Like real, what's progressing in terms of the goals?
Well, I was thinking, I guess, about two things. One, sort of a one-page summary of here's where we are in the process, and here's any interesting things we've found, and here's key things that we're going to be doing over the next 6 months.
Well, here's where I'm questioning, like, where we are, like what we've done versus what all the committees have done. Sam,
Well,
what are you thinking
yeah,
that goes there?
We/committees, in the sense that, here, you don't want to be too specific in the sense that saying, this particular committee or board is, well along in terms of implementing things. This committee hasn't done anything, kind of thing.
Right.
Scorecard, not necessarily. On the other hand, to point out some things that are interesting here. For example, one of the things that Judith and I have to report on tonight to take a peek ahead a little bit is the conversation with the school committee was pretty interesting. And so I think there's some real opportunity there to loop them into the tricentennial celebration. So that for me is sort of a piece of news that would be useful for people to hear, I think. And if there are other snippets like that that we can advertise in terms of things that are happening in a constructive way, I think that would be a good thing for the part of the one-page summary, a few points of saying, here's some exciting things that are going on.
Would you need to include one exciting thing on every board, committee, and commission because some might feel left out?
Nah, it would be good if they had some, certainly. On the other hand, I'm willing to take heat that people are ignored, so.
No heat, Sam. We're going cool this year.
Oh, okay. Well, the
Okay.
background seemed to be very cool tonight, so.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, I mean, I'm happy to pull a report together, but I need data because right now there are no progress reports in the shared folder. Unless everyone's posted them to the shared folder in a different place than I was looking.
No, you'll have
So
updates
as
from me
tonight-
tonight on everybody, but I'm curious if we can help you by in the top progress report, that overview that we come up with, the narrative based on what the data that we've collected. Can we highlight one thing that we think should be highlighted from our discussions? And then all you have to do is pull that out of the overview and be like,
Absolutely, yeah.
here's a,
Mhm.
and then you don't have to do anything but pull it out. And we do some of the work since we're closer to the data. That might be an easy way to do that. And I do think in the interest of time, you don't want to overdo it, but I do think we should be inclusive of most boards, committees, and commissions and not leave any out based on some of the previous conversations of feeling like priorities are being built around other objectives that aren't
Yeah,
necessarily inclusive
definitely.
of all.
Yeah.
So, and we can do that in the OneDrive, right? That everybody can go in, and so we're closest to our boards and committees, right? So maybe you've got 2 out of 3, or you've got 3 out of 4, or whatever, you want to highlight those bullets. So can you show us, Judith, where that would go? Is it in our reports or is it in the overview? Which now, to be honest, I can't remember because I haven't been in there in a long time.
Okay, just
I'm working offline, so you don't have my report right now.
Sorry, my laptop's super slow. Okay. Actually, I need to do this slightly different.
Sam, I think this is your first time with us in doing a report. Do you know where to put this information?
Not off the top of my head, but I've actually looked around in here, so
It was
Right.
right there.
So this
Progress
is
reporting.
the,
yeah.
okay, so this is the MPIC folder. Let's do it like this. If you go into the drive, this is the MPIC folder with our key documents. This is progress reporting. Okay, and each board and commission has its own mini folder. So if I go down to, let's go to historical commission because it's mine. Okay, in the historical commission folder, there is their actual implementation plan, which is the plan by responsibility. So everyone has got that in the folder. And then what I've got is, this is my progress report from Q1 with the little highlight. And then this is my progress report from Q4, which is the summary and then the detailed answers to each of the questions.
Mhm.
So
Now,
let's look
not every board and commission had one of these progress reports in Q1, because at that point we were staggering them. So some people were going to come back and do it in Q2, like Cat's Trails report was going to be in Q2, whereas the open space preservation was in Q1. So this is the high level summary that then gets taken out and put into this. So to Kat's point, to get the sound bites for the summary report that are, hey, here's a real aha from historical commission. I'm not sure there is one, to be honest, but I can probably find one. I'd need it in here in the summary.
So the task for the rest of us is to have something where it makes sense in the high level summary piece for the various groups that we're working with. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what you have to remember, so the only thing I'd say is there are some boards and commissions that are very straightforward. So the historical commission only has goals and recommendations. It has one goal and 7 recommendations. That's the only thing it has responsibility for. There are other boards like the select board that have goals and recommendations across the master plan. So Sam, you're gonna have to find a way to summarize that out in a way that I don't quite know how you're going to do that, but I'm sure you can see what I'm saying. And there are
Pick your
other, you
favorite.
know, the planning board is the same, Debbie. The planning
Yes.
board has recommendations in multiple chapters of the plan.
Yeah. And
So we can
is the
work on that.
idea, do you think, to create something that shows some forward progress in this high level summary rather than saying, oh, they're on task and they're, they meet quarterly to continue to work on their goals, something like, rather than progress, but to say something more that, they've made serious progress on one of their goals. Is that what we're trying to do for this high level summary, do you think?
If they have, I mean, I
Okay.
don't think we can, I think we have to go with what the data tells us.
Yeah, it is still early for many, it is still really early in this. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
agree, Kat.
you
Yeah, I
know,
think
for the planning board, it might, I'm just pulling this, it might be the big focus that we want to include in there is the MBTA zoning, which is a tiny little recommendation, and I'm not even sure it was a planning.
I don't think it made the
board.
master plan. You know what, I just
No,
met
it
with
did.
Karina.
It-
The
no,
MBTA
it's in the
committee?
master plan. It's in the
Uh,
master plan in a couple of places. But because it was really early days,
Yeah.
it wasn't we already know what the start and end is. But that might be because it feels like we've made there's a lot of progress being made and it's being driven by the planning board. That might be the key highlight that you want to make for the planning board.
And again, I think the focus ought to be key highlights in here. I think people
Yeah.
get blitzed by 47 different things. If you say, here are the, you know, 2 or 3 most important things that are going on in this area, I think that's plenty.
Yep.
For this report, frankly, and next time it'll be different. But to me, demonstrating progress, communicating to the planning board and to the public that might be watching this thing, I think is important to pick out some highlights, focus on them, and you know, do a similar thing next time around.
Good idea, Sam.
Now, I have a couple of very nitty-gritty detailed questions about progress report and linking it to specific goals. I'm not quite sure if this is the right time, if we had more to talk about before I get into the weeds on this one question I have about how to report and link them to the actual goals and recommendation numbers. So let me know if I can pop in or if I should wait.
Yeah, are you all set, Judith? I mean, do you, I think so. I think we can move on. I want to make sure Judith's, because she's doing so much to help us.
Well, just the only thing I'd say is I am on vacation I'm on vacation from the 17th to the 24th. So depending on when the planning board wants the report, I'm gonna need some data to start working on in the next 4 or 5 days. My next week is relatively clear for me. After that, I'm kind of pretty tied up with other stuff.
No, I think that's really fair. And I can personally say I told the board I'd have everything done by end of the year, and it's still sitting in my computer. I wanted to go through it before I put it in. But Leila, why don't we set a target for next week? Is that feasible for everybody? I mean, not the end of next week, right, Judith? Because you have time next week to work on it. So maybe it's like mid next week with, you know, would that be feasible for everybody? And again, it's the high level key takeaways and our progress reports.
I can try.
Can try? Yeah, I can as well. How about Will and Kat? Does that
Yes,
work
I'm
with you?
actually aiming to get my reports done tonight because I wanted to do it earlier, just couldn't, but there's only one piece left that I haven't connected with the DPW. So I will try to connect with him. I'll send him an email tonight because there's only one goal or recommendation related to that. So it should be a fairly straightforward ask. And then that would be the only thing that may go into next week. But yeah, that's no problem.
Yeah, that would be fine with me.
Okay, great. Okay, Kat, so you wanted to talk about connecting this progress report to your goals.
Yeah, so I'll start and I might need to share. Actually, I do think I need to share screens. If you can make me a co-host.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, hang on.
Thank you.
Let me do that. So you.
So this may be too nitty gritty, and I do have, you know, I travel in the weeds a lot, so I would welcome
Literally
on this.
Sounds like you need some trail maintenance.
up on the trails.
Where's my roundup when I need it?
Little weed whacker.
Band.
Okay, so are you seeing right now the a
Yes.
document for the Conservation Commission?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm scrolling down. I was curious, so I thought it would be helpful because I was just trying to organize myself around when a committee is reporting to us about what they have accomplished. For me, it would be helpful to know within these individual documents that have only their goals and recommendations, what number is associated with their goal or recommendation, so I can kind of keep track on my own level about what we're talking about, the same thing, right? And so I am referring to Conservation Commission now, and I was looking at my notes from Melissa, and she was explaining certain things are done. And so is it valuable to anybody to, in the progress report, to actually, when we're talking about a goal or recommendation, that we include the number associated with it so that it's easily identifiable, rather than trying to interpret a string of text and saying, oh, that is related to, you know, let's see, for example, NR 1.1 and LU 4.1, you know, rather than if I include those numbers, then it can easily be linked. Does that make sense? But I'll stop there and let that be.
Sounds like a
answered.
good idea to me. We've got the structure there, so why not use it?
I guess here's my thought on that. It depends how detailed you want to get in your progress report, because the way for me, the progress report is, it's a summary of how a board and commission is doing. It's not necessary. I don't put in my progress reports the detail specifics around individual recommendations, because otherwise the report would just be so big. So one of the things we talked about, and I guess this is a good segue, and Kath, we did touch on this when we met the other week. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
What I do,
Let me
what
stop.
I've been doing for my two boards, and I've only had two and they're relatively straightforward, is
I lost my console. Can you share anyway above me?
Okay.
Yep.
I have created for myself this tracker, which is an Excel version of the Word document. So it looks similar to the progress reports we've done because I use the same template. But this, for the Historical Commission, they have 7 recommendations. I created this and just, it doesn't take very long to do, to cut and paste in all of the information. So what you're seeing on a portrait page in the implementation Word document is actually now running across.
Yeah.
And when I've met with people, these are the detailed notes that I take. So, you know, I spent an hour on half on the phone with Kevin Miller about Historical Commission. I summarized our conversation in the progress report, but I put all of the detail in here so that then when it comes to pulling out, okay, what's my big soundbite from the Historical Commission? I've got that there. Now, we talked about being able to provide something at a much more granular level for the public, or for ourselves and the public to be able to see progress. This is what I would suggest. This is my proposal, is you have to have something at that recommendation level. You can't summarize it into a progress report. So what I did down here is I've actually come up with a color coding for each recommendation. It's kind of traffic lights. I am not using red because I think red's very emotive for people. I actually just left it blank, but so this would be green is good progress, so it's complete. Yellow would be it started, people are talking about it, they're working on funding. Not started or dependent on another recommendation, basically. So it's kind of like saying, well, no one's doing very much, but there might be a really good reason why they're not doing very much, because they're waiting for someone else to do something. And then gray would be review or change. So if I do, this is just to show you the example. If I then do this, this is recreation based on the last, I still haven't connected with recreation this time around, but they're already working on all of these. They have one where they want to come back and say they don't think they're responsible for sidewalks. They've got another one where it's gray because there is an exploratory commission set up for the community center, but it's a select board recommendation. They're involved in it, but it's not their recommendation, so they've just made a comment on that.
Mhm.
I love this, Judith. I think honestly, I'll tell you, I did something similar, not to this extent, but I took the Word version and of the all the goals and the recommendations, and I just literally added a column on the
Yeah.
right that just said notes.
Yeah.
And then as I sat down with EDC coordinator, town planner, Shopsy, as they were talking, I was saying, how are you doing on this goal? Because they're starting to tell me, well, we made progress on this goal. We're working on that goal. And I realized the progress report that was in front of me, I really wanted to look at the wording like, oh God, what is that goal?
Yeah.
And so it sounds like we're evolving, and this maybe even gets a little bit about what Sam was talking about with sort of the traffic lights, but it does seem like we're naturally in a place right now where the boards and committees are sort of settling into their recommendations. I think that they know what they have in front of them. I think we've done a good job with communicating and reaching out. They're in various stages, let's say, as an example, and when I met with the EDC coordinator, she has some that are pretty high up on our list. And she's been to us before and also met with the planning board and wants to make a little more progress with her committee. But some of what they want to do on EDC may be gated by what's happening on MBTA communities. Want to see how that shakes out first, and so, I was able to put notes on my Word copy, which looks like this, but this is much, kind of more powerful because it's got the color coding. I also think, just to say another point, I think that the planning board would be interested in something like this because the reaction from when we delivered the first report, I think it seemed a little abstract to them. I think it didn't seem grounded in the recommendations and the goals. And maybe it was simply also that the master plan implementation committee had only been together for like 4 or 5 months when we delivered that first report. So really we're just meeting our committees. But I think this is really powerful. I think this is really a way to talk to people about what's going on, because I think everybody's starting to get into this now.
I agree. And I'm curious because so Judith, you take this and you talk to your boards, committees, commissions, and you go by line item. Where are you on this goal? Where are you on this recommendation? Where are you on this, and this? Is that right?
Well, kind of the other way around. When I did my hour and a half with Kevin Miller in historical, he just talked. Sorry, let's start again. He had the Word document in front of him, so he knew what the recommendations were. And
Yeah.
he talked, and I took the notes, and then I send this back to him and say, hey, this is what we've captured. Is it an accurate reflection? Did I get anything wrong?
Yeah.
And that's what I did with rec, and that seemed to work very well the first time around.
Yeah, town planner did something very similar. She pulled out her copy, her paper
Yeah.
copy.
Yeah.
And she had taken
so
notes.
just one
Here's
thing.
where we are.
So the reason I kind of like this is one of the reasons I like it is the progress report is by board and commission, because that's our liaison kind of point to point. This is built around the objectives. So what you see here is that, so this is taken straight out the chapter. Okay. So it shows the different responsibilities. So I think what it does highlight is there are certain objectives within this report that have multiple responsibilities within them. So, yes, okay, it's mainly recreation, but there's golf course and there's open space and there's the select board. There's golf course again. So it does, I think once we really start to get into it, it will start to surface those recommendations that are very interdependent. Because, the MBTA one is a good example where there's the zoning dependency from the planning board, but then actually doing something with it, I think, is in the EDC remit. But if I had this laid out for economic development, I think you would see that, because it's all kind of linked together. So it kind of creates a matrix view for me.
Mm-hmm.
So let me show you one other thing, because I think to Sam's point, and I think you made this last time, Sam. No, wrong one. I created a slightly different tracker here. So, and we haven't looked at this for a long time, but this is the goal tracker. So this is 39 different goals. And I think we can potentially do something similar, not this time round.
Mm-hmm.
We can do something similar to show, I'm trying to move everybody's, to show where are we across those goals. So to some extent, you can go bottom up. And this is where you might put in a big red. It's pink because I don't like it when it's red, but so, you might look down here and say, let me find one. I don't know. Let me just pick one out.
The connectivity one is good, the CT.
Connectivity one,
Maybe.
yeah.
CT3.
Because we know that one of the key areas of recommendation was around pedestrian bicycling. There's a lot of things connected to that. We might say, actually the connectivity really isn't moving. So you could actually traffic light this. You could assess this and traffic light this at the goal level. Because, and I think you've talked about this, Sam, is there might be things happening in this general goal area that are not specifically related to the master plan.
I love that, Judith. Also, people
so-
get stuck. They don't know what to do and who to meet with, and that may be the reason it's
Yeah.
not moving. And
Yeah.
not that particular goal, but others.
Yeah.
And Judith, I think this is helpful from the standpoint of how to highlight areas for attention, management, et cetera, in the sense that I don't think it's our job collectively to say, we need more effort here or there or wherever, but to highlight primarily for the planning board and select board to say, how are we doing on some of these areas? And there doesn't seem to be much progress here, and we think it's okay, so that's not a problem, or there doesn't seem to be much progress, and that is a problem, and so we need to figure out how to focus more resources or effort on this particular area. So it's sort of a high level dashboard, if you will, that opens the door possibly for some management of the overall process, which again is not our purview necessarily, but highlighting those kind of things for the select board, the planning board, or whoever else has resources to bear on this stuff, can focus appropriately. If I can back up a second,
So-
Kat, I think this structure, Kat, actually gets at what you were talking about, I believe, in terms of linking the particular line items into the progress process here. Is that consistent with what you were suggesting?
I think so. On the objective tracker, maybe, I mean, there's a lot going on. And I think for the Conservation Commission, I'm trying to understand, like when Melissa's talking about stormwater regulations being complete the bylaw, I want to link that to all of the objectives and how that mean what is done, right? So I like the Excel. I started with Word too, but I think moving to Excel might make sense because I like being able to report on each recommendation, because it's still kind of, I'm still a little disconnected from every goal of recommendation for every commission that we're working with.
Mhm.
So do you mind, because I've got some very specific questions, why things are in this Conservation Commission packet, for example, that I don't
Sure.
understand how to. So may I ask some of those specific questions to the group?
Yeah. So, but is everyone, because these won't take, I can't do them for the report on the 29th, but these really don't take very long to create because the data's already there. It's not, the tricky part is coming up with the template. This is just kind of cut and paste. So I can do it while I'm painting my nails, but I just do a little bit at a time. Yeah. So I can create
think
these
so.
for each objective then, yeah?
I think it'd be
it's
great for the next report. I think that would be really helpful
Yeah. For June, I think for sure.
for the June
Or
report.
whenever we're doing,
July.
June.
Yeah.
All right, yes. So Kat, let me close out. Let me stop sharing.
Okay. So you should see a table now that says Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the extract, and so I'm curious why on this table for conservation, land use 4.0, established strategies for energy conservation, the responsibilities of the select board. Why is this in the Conservation Commission packet? That goal that's responsible is the responsibility is the select board.
Because they are, okay. They are responsible for the recommendations in white. Okay. So they are responsible for reviewing the stormwater and erosion bylaw and determining if an update is advisable.
Okay.
The
so-
overall goal 4.0, so 4.1 reports into 4.0, the goal 4.0 is the responsibility of the select board.
But 4.1 is conservation.
conservation.
4.1 is conservation. And it's
Got
the
it.
same for
This-
OS 1.5.
Yep. And then
That's
all these, okay.
conservation. But the goal that it nests under is the responsibility of open space and preservation.
Got it.
So if the Open Space and Preservation Commission was actively managing its goals, it should be going to Melissa and saying, hey,
Where are
are you
we? with
doing this?
1.5? Okay.
Which is why I think it's the goal tracker then becomes quite powerful, because in a number of cases, the goal is owned by somebody different than the recommendations. Or
Activity.
there are some goals where they have multiple recommendations. Sorry, where there are multiple parties responsible for the goal, for the individual recommendations.
Okay, great. And then scrolling down a little bit, now we have what's highlighted in a peach color. That's just 5.6 remediation.
That's from yeah, I think you're using the implementation plan for conservation where we'd mapped the 2023 select board goals in there
Okay.
as well.
Okay,
The peach is a select board goal.
okay, so nothing I need to worry, it was just a mapping. And I
Yeah.
don't need to worry, okay. So then one other quick question is, what's in green here? This is me trying to say, okay, this is where Melissa said these were done. And I'm just curious for this one review, this first one, review levels of regulation and latest research for wetland protection and stormwater. That was under two different sections, natural resources and land use.
Yeah, because the two, so if you looked at LU 4.1 it's like a sister recommendation to that one. So what, I don't know if anyone remembers this because we
I have
did
it
it
up.
like 2 years ago.
Review
But
the, yeah, I
what
have it up
Mimi
here.
wanted to do, what we agreed with Mimi is she didn't want lots of zoning recommendations that were not connected into the rest of the master plan. Because
Yeah.
what happened in the 2008 plan was that there was a whole section on zoning and it wasn't integrated to the other recommendations. So there wasn't a clear understanding of what zoning was enabling. So what we did was the land use and zoning recommendations are primarily the same recommendations, just worded slightly differently than the ones that are in the main report. So that's why in the implementation plan, there's a link back to the land use and zoning. So what we should be able to do is if Melissa feels that that's completed, then land use and zoning, that recommendation in land use and zoning should also be regarded as complete.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
That
And
makes
that's
sense.
helpful. Yep,
There's-
it does.
There's only, I think there's about 15 or so land use and zoning, but that was the intent was to kind of show the integration as opposed to having something completely separate on zoning where nobody necessarily knew why we were doing it.
Okay,
Basically a connecting device.
got it.
Yeah.
And so so I think back to my, like, the progress report, like when someone tells me we've done 1, 2, and 3, just putting in parentheses after those, the quick bullet points that I'm summarizing and linking those to this numbering system, even if it's not, it feels to me useful exercise, even if I'm summarizing in my Excel spreadsheet. So there's a linkage at least, instead of having to interpret that bullet to mean, NR 1.1, I'm actually putting it there so that, at least for my own organizational purposes, I know that that link's there and it can be really clear.
It gives you a
Mhm.
connection, a roadmap.
Yeah, because otherwise
Yeah.
it's a little abstract for me and I want to make sure that this, and then I can run it by Melissa to make sure she's comfortable with, yes, that's exactly the one I'm referring to, so there's no confusion.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
okay.
mean, once we've got these Excel trackers, there's no reason why you couldn't take those to the meetings and use those as the kind of talking points for sure.
Well, that's exactly the point. That's a much better way to structure these discussions so that you're hitting on every one.
Yeah,
And 'cause
yeah.
what I've
And
been
that's
doing
where,
is letting them
you
tell
know,
me, and you're
Yeah.
not hitting on all of them.
yeah. And that's why I think, in some ways it was more luck than management that's how Recreation and the Historical Commission, that's how they wanted to talk about it. They
Yeah,
didn't want to talk about it in general. They wanted to go through and say,
yeah,
we're doing this, this, and this,
yeah.
and we haven't
I think
started
that's
that yet.
absolutely
We'll get
great.
to it.
I do too.
I
I'm
found
actually
it the
going to
same.
adopt that
They've
and change
taken
this.
hold of it and they're starting their own tracking. Because remember the conversations that we had 6 months ago was making sure
Oh,
that they
yeah,
knew that
yeah,
master plan
yeah,
implementation was
yeah.
not responsible for tracking their goals.
Yeah,
And,
And in
I think
actual fact,
yeah.
in actual fact, Kevin Kevin Miller is actually trying to get one of his own team to create a tracker for their recommendations so they can just send it to me, so I don't even have to spend time talking to them, which I'm just like, that's very nice.
Well, this is really exciting to me for a couple of reasons, because I think we're all finding that our boards and committees, many of them do have either coordinators or looking for somebody to take on this kind of self-tracking. So, they're taking responsibility for it. And by the way, when I like to talk a lot, but I do let them talk because I want to hear from them what they're saying. And I don't go all recommendation by recommendation. I think still having that goal with the recommendations under it, I feel like there's themes that they talk in themes about, affordable housing or ADUs by right and MBTA communities and these sort of themes that are coming up. But by hearing what my boards and committees are saying, I realized also that they're following the recommendations mainly, or at least, trying to. But Kat, I don't want it to go unnoticed that it looks like the Conservation Commission has 4 goals, or sorry, 4 recommendations that they consider complete.
Well, hang
And-
tight. I have to really
and it-
understand this before I
Yeah.
go. I was just trying to link to say, she's like, oh, stormwater bylaws are done. I'm like, well, how many of these does that apply to? And so
Well,
I just
they
need to
did
double check.
update the erosion control bylaw at town meeting last year, so that may be what that
Yeah.
one is, but that just rings a little bell in my mind that I do think we have a process to, Judith, maybe you can help out, or Sam, who are on the master plan committee, when the goals are considered complete, how do they get recognized, and who makes sure they're complete? The individual board committee, or does it go to the planning board for,
No, I think it's the individual board and commission. I mean, what I would say in that example, Kat, and Melissa is probably a good person to kind of test this out, is we really need something to demonstrate that it's done.
Oh,
Okay, so if they, that might be oh yeah, the erosion bylaw went to the town meeting. It might be, oh yeah, the Conservation Commission had a formal review of wetland stuff in this meeting, and we can put down which meeting it was and when they did it. There might be other recommendations like the MBTA zoning, where you say, yeah, here's the output packet that says this is the zoning maps. And we, I think we talked about being able to say, well, here's a link to that board and commission's website, which shows that, the sidewalk plan. I know the original one sat in the DPW website. So the more we can think about how do we link through without creating lots of extra work, how do we link through to specific documents or reference points where we can say, yeah, we feel comfortable that that's complete.
But I think you're right
The
that the
better.
individual committee or board has to declare victory or not, and the planning board may
Yeah.
or may not agree, but I don't think the planning board has any leverage to say, no, you haven't done that, so you may have some
No.
disagreements. On the other hand, if we
Yeah,
get that
yeah.
far, I think
Yeah.
we basically
Now,
got
some
it.
of them are going to be a bit harder to do. So I'm thinking some of Will's finance recommendations is we might have to be a bit creative when we say, are they complete or not? And that's definitely going to be the challenge with the recommendations that are specifically defined as short-term ongoing. Where
in that particular realm, I mean, they think that they completed a number of what I'd call the establishment recommendations. So, a lot of it though is that they are doing this repeatedly, and I'm not exactly sure if that's part of the strategic plan or if it's just the establishment recommendations that they've already done.
I think what we said when we agreed at the master plan committee that we would have this short-term ongoing recommendation, we said it would be regarded as complete if they could demonstrate that there's been initial action and the process is in place, or the repeating protocol is in place. We'd say, yeah, that's complete then. I mean, because you don't want to have to do it every year. I don't know, is there anything in yours, Kat, you just had that document, was there anything in there that was short-term ongoing?
Yeah, those are all short term. Oh, ongoing. No,
No.
no, they none of them said short term and ongoing.
But Judith, I think that raises an
Yeah.
interesting question. That's sort of another category in my mind, that the ongoing stuff, you want to track that, and that's, a green box or whatever if you're doing a stoplight thing. But in fact, if it's ongoing, then there is opportunity to revisit along the way, and you could get off track down the road versus something like, updating the stormwater regulations that was approved by town meeting, so that's done, and you're unlikely to revisit that, so you can declare victory there and move on. So leaving the door open for, falling off track and changing the evaluation, I think is not unreasonable. Although the expectation would be once you're on track, likely you'll stay on track.
Well, with regards to finance, they have started out with the appropriate processes. So they've started the processes.
Mhm.
And what you're saying is that we also want to monitor whether or not they are repeating the processes appropriately as they go forward.
Right. So you could fall off track, hopefully not, but it would be good to have a tracker to know where that happens and provide whatever feedback is necessary.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess in the case of finance, then it's, one could say though, in the case of finance, that they have to do this for every town meeting at least. I don't know if they are doing it more often than that, but yeah, I see what you're saying. There are other processes though that need to get repeated more often or on
Right.
a different schedule.
And whatever the schedule is, are you on track or not? So that
Yeah.
in my mind is there's the one time and the ongoing stuff basically, and you think about
Yeah.
them a little bit differently.
So here's a good example, and I actually remember this. This is the reason why we came up with short-term ongoing, because open space and recreation would not accept short-term. They said it's ongoing, we're going to do it all the time. So this is this one. Develop a nature-based passive recreation program, gardening, bird watching, and butterflies. And what we said was, okay, it's short-term. You have to demonstrate that the program's been created. It's then ongoing. But at some point, we probably want to go back in a year's time and say, are you still doing that? Because
Right.
otherwise, it's not ongoing.
That doesn't count
So
if
I
you just
think,
do it once.
that's where being able to track this at this level, I think is, you can start to look at that sort of
Yep.
stuff.
Yep. And Judith, you could do a report that pulls out the ones that were on track and are off track. They flag those for attention.
Oh yeah. 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 Once we have this set up, it's easy to filter and do all sorts of stuff with it.
Mhm.
Thank you for your time on that.
Yeah, very helpful
Nice.
ways of looking at it. Yep.
Yes, in your free time, you're making those spreadsheets for us, Judith. I really appreciate that. I think that's really exciting, though. It's going to be really helpful. Well, we're sort of on the maybe member updates. I just wanted to maybe go to the next part of the agenda and see if anybody has anything they would like to share. Anything at all?
Judith and I had a good conversation with the school folks, administration, Greg Martineau, Stephanie Reinhorn, and Roger Challen. And I guess bottom line, and Judith, you can fill in details if I miss anything, but is that we pulled out maybe 15 things out of the implementation activities where there appeared to be potential overlap with what the schools are doing for they have a Vision 2026 strategic plan. And we talked through a number of those things to basically the goal was to find things that they were eager to participate in and sort of work across lines here in this process. And several of them, I think, were hit some interesting chords. The one that I found most interesting was they got pretty excited about hooking into the tricentennial celebration process. And I think there are many interesting connections there between school programs and getting the students involved in some of that, particularly out of the history curriculum. And so what we're trying to do is we actually have established that committee now, but I'm trying to figure out a way to find room for a school participant in that process to be sure we're connected. And to me, that's a powerful resource. If you get the students involved and excited about this, I think that adds a huge amount of not only learning opportunity, but energy and enthusiasm and motivation to make it even more exciting. So that for me was sort of the highlight. There were other connections I think that were interesting as well, but so we'll continue to work to reinforce that.
Yep, that's fantastic. I know you guys have been working hard to try to make that happen. That's really
Anything
great.
else, Judith, that you take away from that conversation? I thought they were very enthusiastic and constructive.
They
and-
were though, and I think some of the touch points I think were great. And also I said I would at some point later this winter go back and talk to Stephanie about the database that they've got created to track the strategic plan, because a big chunk of the master plan for schools is the strategic plan. So again, that's another example of if they're already tracking it, it makes it kind of super straightforward to hopefully to report out on it.
Yep.
Which is
And-
what we said, you know, that was what we had always envisaged in the ultimate is, you know, the plans of individual boards and commissions should be cascading from the master plan and rolling up to the master plan. So
Yep.
housing was, you know, was the other example that we always used to talk about, is that the Shopsy housing plan is the master plan in most cases. So it shouldn't be, oh, well, there's a master plan and there's what Shopsy's doing that's separate to it.
Right.
And if you know, if we can get people thinking in that cadence when the 2030 master plan is done, it should be much easier for people to recognize that if you start with the big picture master plan and drop it down to your, you know, individual annual plans, life is very straightforward.
Yep. And again, I think one of the things that I was frustrated by out of the 2008 process, the schools were sort of missing in action on that one generally. And it's frustrating because the schools are like 2/3 of the town budget. So having that big hunk of economic resource well connected in here, I think is a critical thing that not only creates you know, motive power consistent across not only the schools, but other town departments, but creates energy to get many more people involved in implementation process here in a variety of ways. So I think that to me is a critical link, and it sounds like we've got at least good conceptual support. Now it's often a gap between concept and reality, but we've got the opening, and we I think need to continue to press that. So I was encouraged by the conversation.
Good news. That's great. Any other updates? Not mandatory, just anything you want to share.
Debbie, I sent you an updated email you might want to take a look at.
Okay.
One notable thing that I wish I'd thought of in the master plan, has anybody been following the Lake Williams Boardwalk in Marlborough?
No.
They have
Oh, I've heard
3,000
about
feet of floating boardwalk in Lake Williams, which is
Mhm.
fantastic, connecting a couple of trails there. And you know, it's something like that for our causeways. We have talked about connecting pedestrian access across the causeways, but hugely costly. This is a less costly approach to that. So
Are
wish I
those
could-
going across the backup drinking water reservoir?
That
It
was my
is.
question.
That's an issue, but
Well, no, in Marlboro, they're not using that as
No,
a backup
that's
reservoir. They-
recreational. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, yeah, I guess
Marlboro.
the question, of course, would be, would DCR approve that, right?
That's
Or
actually
MWRA?
MWRA, yeah.
Yeah.
And I happen to know Fred Lasky, and I'm going to ask him.
All right, I was gonna say, do we know anybody who has some contacts to MWRA?
I'm actually on the MWRA advisory board.
I know,
As you
Sam.
know,
I
okay.
just wanted to give you an opportunity to say that.
But that's a fascinating structure there, I think. So I
I've heard
envision
about it.
kids
Do you know
running
how
across there.
costly?
1,000,007 for 3,000 feet. Far cheaper than a, walkway that on piles driven into the bottom of the reservoir of the lake there. But I envision kids
that does
running
sound
around there throwing
intriguing.
each other in the drink.
Yeah, that does sound intriguing. That might give us a way to connect, connect Route 9, the people south of Route 9.
And there's no water connection there though. So pedestrian bridge is my goal there. So
Mm.
anyway, random thought, but pretty interesting.
Nice. Anybody else, or should we move to the next item? Like a short meeting tonight. Well, let's move on to meeting minutes. Judith had sent out the minutes from our last meeting way back in November. I had already looked at them once with Judith, and I thought that they were fine. Did you guys have a chance to take a look at them, or do you want to look at them now?
Look good to me.
Can we
And
just do you want to just go through the actions, Debbie?
Yeah, that's actually one question I wanted to ask, is whether or not we want to keep a list, running list like that on the agendas and the minutes. I actually thought that was, it was pretty helpful. As you know, are you able to bring it up really quickly, Judith?
Yep, hang on a sec.
Okay. So
Everyone
again,
see
it
that?
feels like- yeah, we can see them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, the actions were more on
Second
the
page.
next page.
Yep.
So options for communicating progress and successes. I think that was what we just looked at in the kind of individual, the reporting and the trackers, if we can get that on the website.
Hey, Judith, one other
Mhm.
possibility there is that Mark Purple, our town administrator, is now putting out a monthly, I guess it is roughly, newsletter for what's going on in town. And so if we get notable things out of this process, I think that's a great way to communicate more broadly things that are happening.
That's really nice, Sam. I did see some of his newsletters. What's the process to get him, to get something on his newsletter? Does content go through the select board, or we bring
No.
it to?
Nope, goes through Katie Berry or Melanie Utska. So they're handling the administrative side of that. They work with Mark to put that out. So you could also send something to Mark.
Mhm.
But again, that seems to me as we get more detailed reporting going along, not only just sort of update on here's what the master plan implementation committee is doing, but here's some notable actions that various boards and committees are doing relative to master plan progress. And they're constantly looking for content for that. So if we got anything semi-decent, I think we got a good shot at getting in there.
Yeah, that's good. It's also a way to keep master plan kind of front and center if we have some content for them.
Right.
Yep. No, that's great. Thank you for that. We should add that to the list, Judith. Last meeting, I think we all came up with a bunch of ideas that.
Yeah, maybe next meeting we can go
Yes.
back and put that one again. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're focused on report right now, but
Yeah.
I think getting the word out and coming up. This falls right into that, Sam. That's great. I like that. Let's see, consider, what else do we have?
MPIC update for the annual report.
Oh yeah, Judith, I saw you sent me an email, but I just skimmed it. You had taken a look at what we did for last year's annual town
Well,
meeting?
yeah, because last year I just happened to come across it when I was cleaning
Oh.
files. And last year Mimi included a paragraph on the master plan committee as the first bullet in the planning board report. There wasn't a separate master plan committee report. So I don't know if you want to just talk to her about doing something on MPIC as part of the planning board.
Yeah, can you send that over? So do you have the paragraph that we sent her, or do you have the
Yeah,
page?
that's what I sent you in the email.
Oh, you
yeah.
did? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so, and do we know, so, okay, so that was, that's published in the annual report, right?
Yep.
And do we know when that's due? I think we talked about that a little
Very
bit.
soon, I think, if not
Yeah, I've
previously.
Oh.
the date. Hold on, I'll pull it up.
But again, talking with Karina, Karina and Colleen.
I'll ask. her.
January 22nd.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, good. So we can work on something. So I'll take a look. I mean,
It was a couple of sentences. It's really not. When you look at the amount of detail on the other commissions, boards and commissions, it's very high level.
Yeah. But again, I think there's a short paragraph here that reinforces a lot of things we're talking about and useful.
anybody want to come up with that paragraph?
I could take a whack at it. Judith, can you send me what was in last time's then? I could look it up, but if you have it,
Sure. Yeah.
forward that email to me.
That's great, Sam. Thank you.
And so what I can do is take a pass at it, and then I guess to avoid open meeting law requirements, maybe I'll send what I do to Debbie, and do we delegate Debbie to sign off on it and get it in the planning board's report?
I'm okay with that.
Anybody object, want to do it differently?
Nope, good.
Anybody want to volunteer to take the first pass?
Nope, sorry.
I don't know how last year's got done. Maybe Mimi did it, or did you do
Mimi
it,
probably
Judith?
did it. Mimi,
No,
Karina.
Mimi did it. I mean, literally, it is so. It says
High level.
it's incredibly high level. I can see it says, I'll read it. It says the planning department and planning board has had a really great year with several success stories. First, the master plan was completed and accepted thanks to the effort of the master plan committee. The plan was written almost entirely by the committee with minimal consultant help and expenditure of town funds, and the end product was really brought to life thanks to all the residents that sent in photos around the town. If you've not had time to see it, please do so at this link. The plan is poised to take us into 2030 and beyond. The planning board also wasted no time in getting the recommendations from the master plan rolling. The board appointed the master plan implementation committee, and they are off and running.
Well, that's pretty good advertising.
Yep.
We gotta do something. You make sure we get that link in there again this year.
Now we can't get away with a high level that we're working hard kind of report. So
Yeah.
okay,
me.
I will take a whack at it and send it to you, Debbie.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Sam. I'll make sure it gets in. I'll talk to Karina and Colleen about when they're sending theirs in. And anything else? Are we tracking anything else, Judith?
So that's some MPIC. Hang on a sec. Progress reports within the next 2 weeks. That's what we talked about. Oh, creating the corrected document from the April 24th. Kat, you were going to have a go at cutting and pasting.
You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. Oh, I did volunteer for that, didn't I? Yeah. Okay, yeah. I will work on that.
Update the MPIC charge and have the planning board reapproved, Debbie.
You know, I met with Colleen and I completely forgot about that. I think I had another to update some of the changes on the website. And it was, I'll take that. It's my action. I have to still do it. So thank you. That's why we track these things. Schedules for 2024. I think we can look to our calendars, at least for the next one. One I thought we were also tracking was just keep coming up with ideas to socialize master plan. I think we'll take that action. And Sam put forward the one for what is Mark calling his report actually?
Word on the common street.
Oh, nice. Very good.
I don't know. Not too catchy, but functional.
Okay.
So I'll create again, it's super easy, just cut and paste from the minutes. I'll create a kind of a running tracker for that. So I guess the other one, Debbie, that wasn't, it was an action from the previous, the planning board was gonna meet to go over the MPIC or to go over the master plan. That was on, it keeps being punted, I think, from one meeting to another.
Set priorities.
Is that gonna happen in the
So
next?
we didn't really set a timeline. This is the one where Marnie Houlihan is going to assist using kind of that heat map kind of
Yeah, you were gonna do it, but I think the planning board was gonna start with its own goals, and then
yeah.
that was a meeting that I came to and it was on the agenda, and then it got punted at 11 o'clock.
I know. That was unfortunate. That was one of our long meetings and I'm sorry.
Very
but
entertaining.
yeah.
Sitting there
No.
listening to the rest of it.
3 hours plus you went. So just to let you know, Karina or Mimi will frequently put an update for master plan and implementation just to be able to inform the board. And so maybe every other meeting, we meet about every 2-3 weeks. We might see it on there depending on whether I have any kind of update, or they might ask me just to give an update. That specific activity that Marnie has offered to do, we haven't started yet, mainly because we're just completing the mapping exercises for the MBTA communities and have had just a bunch of matters. And I think the target was to take a look at, like you say, our planning board goals and do it sort of on a small scale. And then Marnie has all good intentions to, do it a little on the larger scale for the all the goals and recommendations. I did not speak with her about this, but we've spoken multiple times because we're just meeting to get through this mapping exercise. So I will connect with her about her plan for that. So I don't believe she was going to mention anything at the planning board. And I think it's just a matter of scheduling when she has some time to do that. So I'll connect.
Oh, I thought that was I thought that was the action that was then put on the agenda for that December meeting. That's where I came along.
Oh, well, we enjoyed having you there, Judith, for the 3.5 hours. I think that was it was supposed to just be a routine kind of an update. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
Hey,
Okay.
does the
Good to know.
planning board actually have goals? I mean, outside of the master plan goals that the planning board is responsible for here, I don't think I've ever seen a strategic plan or a set of goals for the planning board. Does one exist? Do you know?
so they're in the master plan. As you know, a lot of them are the land use goals and a lot of them are shared goals. I mean, there are some that are planning board goals only.
Is there a planning board strategic plan?
I don't believe that that's been
I
written.
think I've ever
Yeah,
seen one. Hmm.
yeah,
Okay, just curious.
yeah. Are you thinking, do other towns have something like that, Sam?
Yeah, many organizations do, yeah, not just planning boards, but others. So I mean, something like the select board goals, for example, is not really a strategic plan, but it's trying to move in that direction. So again, not critical here. We've got plenty with the planning board to work with, but
Yeah. Okay.
curious.
Yeah, so we can track that activity, Judith. But I do need to connect with Marnie just because we've gotten so busy with we'll be
Oh
kicking
yeah,
off
no,
soon
no,
too.
no great rush. I was just, I'm just curious what it is that she's looking to do.
Yeah. I'll connect with her and I'll see if we can get maybe, a couple of us together or make her, sure she has the time to connect. Or find out when she has the time to connect, I think is more the right way to say it. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes of November 30th, 2023?
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? Hearing none. Demiria, yes?
Stivers, yes?
Warren, yes.
Mickey, yes.
Watson, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Demuria.
Next- Did I say yes?
I guess
Demiria,
maybe you
yes.
did. Sorry.
Yeah, I did. Demiria, yes. And so I put any other business before the board tonight?
We have one attendee, no hand up. So nothing else, I guess.
One attendee. No hand up. Okay. Will, are you waving at us?
No.
Okay.
He was swatting a mosquito.
Snow
Okay.
sharks.
Oh, we should set our next date before we close the meeting. How frequently do you guys want to meet? I know it is a lot of work to be keeping up with our boards and committees, be keeping up with our reports and everything else. I don't know whether we aim to meet once a month, whether that we want to look for time,
Yeah, I think monthly
something like
makes
that.
some sense, but just sort of keep reminding us,
Yeah,
keep moving on things. I work better with motivation by meetings.
Little accountability.
do we want to look at the beginning of February? Then, about a month from now?
Yeah,
We had, generally the committee thought that Thursdays at 7 was a good fit for us,
maybe the first.
February 1st.
Too bad, missed Groundhog Day by one day there, but
February 1st is good for me. Is it good for others?
Well, that would be the day after the first, that's the same week the planning board meeting is happening, so
Yeah, maybe.
what
there
would
is a
our
weekend.
business be more than?
maybe the 8th then.
Yeah, good point. I'm okay on the 8th also.
Works.
Thursdays are free. Thursday, February 8th.
Works for me.
Let's do
Yes.
that. Okay. Let's do that. If there's nothing else, then I will look for a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Sec,
Any
Third.
discussion? Hearing none. Demiria, yes.
Stivers, yes.
Warren, yes.
Nikki, yes.
Watson, yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Fantastic. All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.